There was a plan I had to put a bunch of gardens in public places, and when I was done, release a map of where they were so people could go and maintain them and also bear some of those fruits. But I think that's something for another day. There.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I'm Mike with Mike's in the Garden. Here, as always, with Sam from Central Florida Abundance. What's happening, Sam?
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, y'all? How you doing today, man? Is the weather getting to you? The pollen's coming out. I can almost hear it in your voice. But
Yeah, I'm a little congested, so we're gonna power through this because we're here every week to deliver the goods to our viewers out there, and I think we got a good one today.
yeah, and I mean, honestly, if y'all are in Florida, if you're in Central Florida right around now, this is just the Florida accent. The nasaliness, nobody escapes all the pollen out there. Even if you don't go outside, you're gonna be nasally. I got a little bit of that too. But we're going to talk about some outside today, right? And a place in your neighborhood.
Well, we'll just say undisclosed at this point. We could disclose it once the deeds have been done, but
Oh, you
yeah,
got plans.
got plans, yeah. And why is it not letting me share? It's not letting me share this video. It's weird.
Oh no. Well, I'll go ahead and let everybody know. Today we're going to be talking about retention ponds. And one retention pond in particular, some guidance on what to do. This is a pretty standard pond that most people are going to see they're going to have around them if you're in Florida or even, anywhere around here in the Southeast. Whenever we have development, we have retention ponds.
So this may or may not be near my neighborhood, but this is what we're seeing where this green growth is here is like the overflow pond. So you can see the culvert there kind of in the distance. There's another one right below us here. So the drainage goes into this overflow pond. That's why it's so lush and green. And then I want to say this is an actual pond. I don't think this is a man-made I think the one on the left is the man-made distribution pond. And what we're actually seeing here is it was an existing pond before they built this neighborhood.
Hey, think
Um,
how big it's a large size. I couldn't really tell from your video.
it's a small pond, not very big,
Mm, okay.
but lots of wildlife. There's always birds there. We see bald eagles there. It's very low right now, and so part of what is inspiring this video is, my calling as a guerrilla gardener. I have loquat trees if anyone's in the Orlando area and wants some loquat trees. Otherwise, I'm hoping to give them a home. And what better place than, well, I don't know. Is there a better place? That's part of the video today because you can see this was an old tree. It was dead. They cut it down. And so even though it was dead and wasn't doing anybody any harm, there was a storm a couple months ago and a big branch like fell in the road. So of course the solution was to just get rid of this
Mm,
tree. And so I said, well, we should replace it with another tree. And so it got me thinking, I want to put a loquat tree somewhere in and around these two ponds. And you and I were talking, and we kind of came up with this video here to demonstrate what, if anything, can be done on a particular. I know a lot of retention ponds in neighborhoods are probably fenced off. Some of them you could probably just walk right up to. Um, but I'll kind of let the rest of this play here, kind of give you an idea of.
Yeah, if they had just, left the like a couple feet of the trunk of that tree, it could be habitat for so many things. But,
Yeah,
that's not the way we go. We just gotta. I'm amazed that the stump's even still there. It was probably just too expensive.
I'm sure that's exactly why. So we can kind of see where the man-made portion of this overflow pond to the middle and left here. Um, so we can talk about a loquat tree, but also I have leeches, some moringas. I don't know what's going to survive and thrive here. This is part of my morning walk, so I guess if I had to water and nurture it, I could do that for a period of time until it was established. Um,
Makes it harder to be discreet that way.
yeah, well, I mean, I am like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, so, but nonetheless, discreet is definitely not my forte. So, um,
Well,
what are
it's
you thinking,
definitely.
Sam? Tell me what you think.
I mean, you can plant it. It needs all sorts of plants. I mean, really, this area around these lakes shouldn't be turf grass. That does no favors to anything. There's hardly any complex root systems. The water's not able to like get into the soil before it runs into the pond. So, I mean, somebody's got a plant here, and it's probably not going to be the people that are in charge of it. I can tell they have been planting some things. You can see the cypress, and then they've got palmettos uh, in those other shots. And I mean, cypress is good. That would really be the ideal tree for this area, but it just needs so much more. Yeah, like this shot really highlights how kind of pitiful the cypress planting was. I mean,
Probably 20 something years ago, this was done.
yeah, and I mean they probably haven't even grown that much. They were probably planted as 15 gallons, and have grown maybe 6 feet over the last half decade. Uh, so I mean, really, it just needs more plants. Obviously, doing so like your loquat trees is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah,
Doing that higher up, either on that dividing berm that we saw a second ago, or up here, uh, in this uh, higher grassy area, like right behind this pole. Um, all of this needs trees, and it needs more than just trees. I mean, really, you can kind of see it on the other one. In the pond, there's grass species that are growing there, like bunching grass species, not turf grass species. Grass that are going to have really deep roots, filter a lot of, you know, things as they're passing through the soil, whether that be, I mean, usually it's just, our base elements, but through fertilizers and chemicals and road runoff, we can get huge flushes of, one compound, and the grasses help keep that in place, slow it down, and disperse it slowly into the system. Um, so, really with this, they've got a really good start. They did a good start 10 years ago or whatever, but then they just, they were like, okay, that's good. We're done. Let it run. Whereas, really somebody's got to come in here and make this like a forest. It should be shady. There should be a diversity of species growing all around here. Uh, and as we get closer to that water line, we get into wetter and wetter species. And then in this, I mean, even in natural areas, we can have seasonal ponds that dry out during the dry season. Right now, we're like at the peak of our dry season. And so it makes sense that this is empty. And there's going to be species that are adapted to these climates that are not turf grass. And I mean, looking at this, or the areas around the beds. I mean, it's hard to tell just from this shot, but it's either, heavy erosion or they're just keeping the ground bare. Do you know, like, from seeing it, which one they're doing?
I'm
All
gonna
this
say,
dirt.
yeah, like up towards the sidewalk here. It's definitely mostly erosion. Down in this pond where it looks like a machine went in there and dug up a whole bunch of stuff, that's exactly what they did. I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind it because it clearly doesn't look like there was any reason why. It looks like they like dug up a little over here and then like it almost looks like if you're looking way in the back towards that tree line, they like removed some trees and just like stuck them in the woods there.
Yeah.
But there was a
I
machine here
mean,
for about a week, and I have no idea what they were trying to
was there
accomplish.
tall growth like in those areas previously?
No, not really. It pretty much just looked like this. So
Huh. That's
I don't know
interesting. Maybe
if
they're gonna
they had a
plant something.
budget they needed to spend, and they said if we don't spend it, then we don't get that budget next year. Not entirely sure, but
We'll just keep our fingers crossed. Maybe they'll plant more down in there, but I mean that's a touchy area to plant in. You know, you see like right there, right here, if you want to pause it, like looking down at this pond.
yeah, let's go back here. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, like right there. And I mean, you know, these are the type of plants you can't really see them in the shop, but the bunching grasses, these fluffy brown things all around the edge, these are different species of bunching grasses, probably all one species, maybe one or two mixed in there, but they're, they're just gonna grow, and probably the city is annoyed by them, but they have a function, and that's really what needs to be there on the edge of our ponds. Um, it looks like there's like a drain pipe there.
Yep.
Yeah, this area is just so bare. And what that leads to, like, even if this wasn't dug out artificially as a retention pond, it is a retention pond now for this area. And what retention ponds do is, they collect all of the water that runs off our non-permeable infrastructure. Non-permeable, that means the water cannot pass through it to get to the ground, so it's got to go somewhere else. And, we have in Florida especially have really leaned into retention ponds as just the solution to all water runoff. We just, if we have too much flooding, dig more retention ponds. And they do work, I mean, really, for that one purpose that we wanted. It keeps the waters from going directly into streams and causing huge floods downriver. Uh, but what it also does is becomes a collector of all the toxic runoff from everywhere in the surrounding area. All of that oil and, petroleum and whatever else just gets washed and settles in this. And when it's bare like this, all of that, residue from the city has an easy direct flow straight into this water source, which leads to, I mean, various problems that we see all the time. I mean, contaminated water, obviously. You don't usually want to eat many of the fish you catch out of these retention ponds. Uh, People do, but man, it's definitely a very different world. Um,
For sure.
Also, we get giant algal blooms when areas get too off balance, which the city then spends, millions of dollars cleaning up every year. Not to mention like the invasive plants that grow crazy along the shores because we're keeping everything else from growing. We haven't planted anything intentionally, but the area just wants some diversity and some root complexity in the soil. And so, the invasives that we can't control, either by spray or, machine removal, they're the things that are going to thrive. Whereas, like, if we intentionally put the types of plants here that this area needed, then, you know, it would be, I'm not saying we wouldn't get those same invasive species, but there would be more competition for them. And we'd have a reason to, maintain them and, maintain the plants that we're planting there. But when it's all turf grass and your goal is just green, and then in the parts you can't walk, you stop caring if that's green because it's just too wet. And so then, you just let it go as long as it's green, whatever. But it ends up costing so much money, from whoever's paying taxes. Uh, but it also just is really damaging to the overall ecosystem,
So
the
Sam,
wildlife. Yeah, yeah.
let's say I was in charge of my HOA, okay? And I said, you know what? We're going to bring in someone that's going to responsibly design and integrate some trees and plants in and around our pond. What are some of the things you would start with? You know, three or five plants, trees that you would place in and around here to, or maybe that's not enough, but
Yeah, well, I mean, really, it's just categories because every area, like, even in Florida, is going to need different specific plants. But I mean, it just comes down to you need tree coverage. You don't want just bare ground, and you want deep-rooted plants in the understory. So, the way I see this is like the areas, the highest areas need to be planted out with trees. And then on the slopes leading down into the water, they need to be planted out with shrubs and grasses. Um, and way more than if we were going to do it and just do it right, the whole thing, we're looking at hundreds of plants. If you wanted to do this one strip, like that berm, you could probably do like 8 trees. I don't know how long it is, maybe 80 feet long. But
probably, yeah, give or
yeah,
take.
you do like 8 trees and, 50 understory things leading down the slope. And then that would improve that section. It would just make it so much nicer. And then, like right now, I bet you that you've never seen anybody sitting out in this lawn just hanging out, having a picnic. Does that ever happen?
No, but probably not intentionally, or I can't speak to their state of mind if they were, but
Yeah. And, so incorporating those other plants, creating shade out there, encouraging more wildlife, having a more stable ecosystem, it's going to become a pleasant place, another community place where people could be. Uh, I can almost, I mean, this is a definitely a nicer pond. Like you said, this one might be maybe is natural. Maybe. I have
yeah.
my doubts, but
Yeah, now that I didn't realize there was a drainage system, which it's so low that now I can see it. So this is probably a man-made pond when they put our development in.
yeah.
Um,
How does it smell this time of year?
yeah,
Do you
it's
ever get
actually,
any whiffs?
well, can't really smell anything right
Yeah,
now.
I guess
I
that's
don't
true.
I
My
don't think
bad.
it's too bad. I don't think it's too bad.
Well,
Um,
that's good. I mean, sometimes, you'll be near a retention pond and they'll just, because the animals are unhealthy, there's more death and also just like the anaerobic conditions breed things that smell bad to us. And it can be a very unpleasant place to be where, ponds historically and water sources are like community areas. That's where people and things congregate around the water, the fresh water systems. And it's kind of sad these days that as a Floridian, even in my childhood, I was encouraged never to swim in any big water body. And I mean, people will say alligators, but I mean, realistically, it's the quality of the water these days.
yeah, I mean Gators.
there's
They're
always been
they're really not going to
alligators.
mess with you too much unless you're like right up,
Yeah,
messing with them, really.
but also, there's always been alligators in Florida, and people used to take advantage of all the water bodies here. There would, public swimming all the time in the lakes. Uh, Retention ponds are different, but even the real lakes here, people look at you crazy if you just jump in there.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they should. Now, one of my concerns was, this thing gets mowed, and so obviously there was a big tree here before. So I would like to kind of go in this line. There's like a space. Actually, there's two trees heading up towards this gate over here that they cut down. That actually looks like a filtration pump for this pond here. So yeah, it most likely was a man-made pond, and they just put the map to show the name of the pond on there. But I was thinking like along this stretch between this pole and this next tree, putting one right in there.
so guerrilla gardening tips.
Let's
If
do
you
it.
make it look like it's supposed to be there, the landscapers won't touch it unless someone, tells them specifically that's not supposed to be there. Please take that out. But, you always, if you can figure out, you know, maybe some of the new plantings, if there's anything like what type of mulch they're using, and then just throw some mulch like that around your tree. And and even if you don't get the exact same kind of mulch, having mulch makes it look intentional. And the guys who mow and do the lawn service are not involved in everything that goes on. And so
For
as
sure.
far as they
Yeah.
know, there was a community project, the Boy Scouts came out and planted some trees.
Yeah. No one's
Uh,
trying to do extra work
right.
more than they already have to do. So
And I would pull it off of the sidewalk a little bit. I mean, realistically, it doesn't really matter because these oak trees that they've planted are all going to tear up the sidewalk eventually. But when you have hardscaping like that, you don't want trees. You know, I'd give them at least 10 feet. Uh, it looks like they've done a lot less than that.
yeah.
But, if it looks more planned to just continue that line. Maybe, and doing multiple plants looks more planned than just doing one. So if you planted 6 loquat trees down in a line, then it's like, oh, well, you know, in most people's minds, they would never assume that somebody just did that for free. Like it had to have been a thing that somebody wanted done.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
So the more intentional, the better, because it'll look like somebody had an actual plan and either paid for this plan or paid somebody to implement the plan.
That's yes, exactly. And now there is a counter side to that, and it was if I'm sure most people, if you've watched this show, you've watched uh Crime Pays, but Botany doesn't. And if you haven't, definitely go check him out. But he has a technique for more wild style plantings. If you're, planting out a bunch of low things, maybe you're not mulching, you don't. And uh it's a very simple technique, and it's called brick in a bush. When you plant your plants, you take things that are very difficult to mow over with lawnmowers, whether that be bricks, heavy logs, railroad ties was a suggestion, or railroad spikes. Uh, you know, if they go to mow your stuff down and their equipment can't get through it, once again, just like you said, people don't like doing a lot more work than they really have to. So 9 times out of 10, they're just going to leave it. So, if you're going intentional, if you're doing a few things, then, try to make it look intentional. If you're going for a more wild planting and, you're doing a lot of stuff and it's in a tight area that, you no longer want to get mowed, put up some obstacles.
I like that.
Uh, and also, you know, I mean, weirdly enough, people respect signs. Even people who like make decisions, if they see a sign like, whatever, the Orlando Garden Club, you know, they could be like, well, probably somebody must have approved that. It didn't go by my desk, but there's a lot of desks in the county, so
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with a good nonprofit sounding name and
what's
organization.
your local Boy Scout troop? Just like throw their number on there and they're like, okay.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah. Eagle Scout Project number 473.
Yep.
Don't touch for 2 years minimum or something. Yeah.
Time capsules buried underneath. Uh, but yeah, doing stuff like that, and then also just be willing to replace. If a thing is cut down and then it pops back up overnight, that makes it even look more like it was supposed to have been there. Somebody came and fixed it. The other department. Um, and you know, planting more always helps. Planting here where we're talking about is probably going to be, the most noticeable. Anybody driving down this road is going to see that fresh plants are planted here. Another thing you can do is take advantage of these beds that they already have. We can see in the top right of this image where these cypress are. There's no grass under there. And so, I mean, realistically, they can't mow underneath the cypress, and the cypress are going to mulch that area on their own. And so that would be an extremely easy place to plant things in, and nobody would ever pay attention. As long as it looked clean and you weren't planting like Napier grass,
Yeah.
that's a hard pass. Don't plant the unruly invasives because that's what, the city spends money trying to remove, and so they're going to be like, "Oh, got to take that out." But if it's, you know, I mean, really, the city plants on like the Florida friendly and the Florida native guidelines by UF. So if you're in Florida, you can look at the UF, plants and choose the same kind of things that they're going to be using, but just plant them better, with better intention and a little more diversity. They did good on the trees. I am happy to see the amount of trees that are here, like that area here in the back. They've got the oaks and then leading down to the cypress. That's exactly what you want. Really, all this area needs is just some understory diversity.
Okay.
Um, you know, Wild coffees. Uh, I mean, what else could you get away with? I mean, lots of shrubs, really. Native shrubs are so easy to guerrilla garden in because they're just well behaved enough and the city's so familiar with them that it's always like, okay, that was probably there, or it grew on its own, and in their eyes, and then it's good because that's just another plant they don't have to plant. Probably these little cabbage palms that are all around here just grew up, and the city
Yeah.
just left them because they were native, and it filled a spot. Now they don't have to mow there.
Yeah.
And so if you can do things like that, um, I think your loquats are definitely a good tree for this area. Um, and then it would just be, you know, I mean, if you were going to do the whole thing, then find some understory. But really, people, out there, if you're thinking about, you know, gardening out in the public, use what you got at first. Make smart plant choices. Make sure you're planting in areas that, will be habitable to your plants. Another reason why natives are just easier because you can just select the ones that are adapted to the conditions and then it'll go. Um, and just start plugging them out. Be willing to maintain that. You don't really want the city pruning your plants uh, because 9 times out of 10 they'll they'll hack them up. So Maybe if you can go out there and give them a good prune yourself just in the middle of the night, and then they come out and they're like, oh, I guess this one's good. We didn't need to touch
Oh,
it.
Boy Scouts are back again.
Yeah.
Uh, well, yeah, this will be a 7 a.m. Sunday project because nobody's out at 7 a.m. So,
There you go.
and if they are, they're not worried about what I'm doing. So, uh, not that I'm worried about what anyone thinks about what I'm doing. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good start to a couple. I think we're going to have two or three more episodes where we're talking about, um, what a city can do responsibly. On the way back from dinner before we started recording this, Sam, we're driving down the new median they put in, lined with palm trees, and I'm like,
Uh,
what else can we have put here? Um,
oh man, I wonder what kind of palms they even were. But yeah, so really, there's key places that everybody's familiar with in their cities, especially here in Florida. Retention ponds, medians, and then we'll have a few other key places that are prime real estate for some upgraded gardening of the guerrilla style.
yeah, awesome. And if you need some help with your guerrilla gardening project and want to make sure you're either planting things that are appropriate or, you know, schedules as far as, like you said, understory, close to water, high above water, give us a shout, hit Sam up, hit myself up, and we can either get you on an episode. We can just do a whole subject about it, or we can take it offline and help you with that as well. Um,
Yeah.
Sam, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and your consulting services? We got you coming out here to the property soon, do some pruning, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have some footage of that as well. It'll be good to see you in person again, staring at you over the screen for too long. Um, but yeah, if you want to garden in your yard, because Central Florida Abundance does not promote guerrilla gardening, but they will help you garden in your property and give you lots of advice through consultations, and you can ask questions about any property that you want, and I'll be happy to help you figure out what's the best way to plant out whatever property you have in mind. I won't ask too many questions. But yeah, reach out to Central Florida Abundance if y'all want a consultation, and reach out to the Igo Family Farm if you want some produce.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Mike's in the Garden, aka the Guerrilla Gardener. We're going to have some time lapse videos of me planting on public property because we need more trees out there. And I've got these trees for sale. You can hit me up. You could buy a 2.5-year-old loquat tree with several branches on it, almost ready to, well, it's ready to go in the ground, but maybe just a couple years away from giving you some fruit. So otherwise, I'm just gonna get it out there for the birds, the bees, and the ducks. So you can also head to. There's going to be a whole bunch of t-shirts coming across the screen right now. Some that should tickle your fancy. So if you're interested, head over there and get yourself a t-shirt. You can get a Guerrilla Gardening shirt, represent the show, as well as Guerrilla Gardening in general. And if you've done some Guerrilla Gardening, tag us on Instagram, Facebook,
Show us
and
your pictures.
yeah,
We
we'll
want to
share
know.
it. We'll share it
Don't
for sure.
geotag it though. We won't rat you out.
Yeah,
We'll see y'all next
interested
time.
in sharing. We'll do that on the next one. So stay tuned.
Okay, cool.
We'll catch you next time.
Future projects.
Yeah.
Catch y'all later.